So we're diving into Merck today.
Merck in 2024. That is
Yep, you bet.
lots to cover.
Tons. You've sent over, the financial reports, press releases, news articles.
The whole 9 yards.
Exactly.
To get a really clear picture of what happened.
Yeah, and, the goal here is to really, sift through all this and figure out what matters.
What's the signal in the noise, right?
Exactly. What do people, actually need to know about Merck's year, the big wins?
The challenges, right. The things to watch out for going forward.
Yeah, totally.
So we're not just repeating, what's already out there.
Yeah, no regurgitating press releases here.
Right.
So for anyone who maybe needs a quick refresher, Merck's a big global biopharmaceutical company, right?
What is the biggest?
Yeah, over 130 years. They've been around.
Bringing medicines and vaccines to the world.
Yeah, so to get started, you pointed us to Merck's official announcement of their fourth quarter and full year 2024 results.
So kind of our jumping off point, yeah.
The source document.
Right.
So let's start big picture. How did they actually do last year?
Overall, pretty strong year for Merck.
Okay.
Worldwide sales hit $64.2 billion.
Whoa.
Up 7% from 2023.
7% growth, not bad at all.
Not bad. And it gets even better when you factor out the impact of foreign exchange.
Ah, okay.
Then you're looking at 10% growth.
Oh, wow. Okay, so even stronger than it looks at first glance.
Right. You always got to consider those currency fluctuations.
Definitely. So double-digit growth, that's pretty impressive for a company like Merck. I mean, they're not exactly a small startup anymore.
Exactly. They're already a giant. So to see that kind of growth is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, for sure. Their CEO, Robert Davis, he's attributing this success to demand for, he's calling their innovative products.
Right. So let's dig into that a bit. What are those products that are really driving these numbers?
Yeah, let's talk about the stars of the show. Who are the big hitters for Merck in 2024?
Well, you can't talk about Merck's success without mentioning Keytruda.
Keytruda, of course, a cancer immunotherapy drug.
It's kind of their flagship product. Their superstar.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like everyone's talking about Keytruda these days.
It's become a real game changer in cancer treatment.
So how much did Keytruda bring in last year?
Hold on to your hat, $29.5 billion.
Whoa. That's serious money.
That's a jump of 18% over the previous year. And to put that in perspective, that's almost half of Merck's total pharmaceutical sales.
Wow, so almost half of the revenue is coming from just this one drug.
Pretty much, it really shows you the power of, having a blockbuster drug like that.
Yeah, Keytruda is definitely carrying a lot of weight for them.
It is.
But Keytruda can't be the only thing they've got going for them, right? What about some of the newer drugs in their lineup?
You're right. They're not just a one-trick pony. They've got some promising new drugs that are starting to make a splash, like Winrevair.
Winrevair. Okay, tell me about that.
That's their new treatment for pulmonary arterial hypertension.
Pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay.
It just launched in the second quarter of last year, so it's still pretty early days, but it's already generating some serious buzz.
Okay. So how's it performing so far?
Well, they managed to pull in $419 million in sales from Winrevair in just half a year.
Oh, wow. Okay, so not quite at Keytruda levels yet, but...
No, not yet.
But definitely a strong start, it sounds like.
Definitely a drug to keep an eye on.
All right, Winrevair, got it. Anything else we should know about?
Well, don't forget about their animal health segment.
Oh, right. They do more than just human pharmaceuticals, don't they?
That's right. Their animal health business is actually quite substantial.
So how did that part of their business do last year?
They brought in $5.9 billion, a solid 4% growth over the previous year.
Okay, so steady growth there, not explosive, but...
Not explosive, no, but reliable.
Reliable, exactly. And, every little bit helps.
Every bit counts.
So we've talked about the good stuff, the successes, but, no company's perfect.
Right. There are always going to be some bumps in the road.
Exactly. So where did Merck stumble in 2024? What were some of the challenges they faced?
Well, one area where they saw a bit of a dip was with Gardasil, their HPV vaccine.
Gardasil. Yeah, that's been a big one for them for a while now.
It has, but sales dipped 3% last year, down to $8.6 billion.
Okay, so still a lot of money, but a decline nonetheless. What happened there?
It looks like the main culprit was a decrease in demand in China.
Interesting. So a geographically specific issue, it sounds like.
It does, and it'll be interesting to see how they address that going forward.
Yeah, China's a huge market, so that's definitely something to watch.
Absolutely.
Were there any other areas of concern?
Yeah, another product that saw a significant decline was actually a pair of products, Genuvia and Genumet.
Oh, their diabetes medications.
Right, those two.
What happened with those?
They experienced a pretty steep drop in sales, like a 33% decline.
Whoa, 33%. That's pretty rough. What caused that?
The report attributes it to a couple of factors: pricing pressures here in the US, and then also increasing competition from generics internationally.
So double whammy.
Yeah, kind of a perfect storm working against them there.
It makes you realize how tough it is to stay on top in this industry.
It does. You're constantly battling competitors, evolving regulations, and changing market dynamics.
Right. And speaking of staying on top, something else in the report that really caught my eye was their R&D spending.
Okay, what about it?
Well, it actually decreased in 2024 by a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a 41% drop.
That's a pretty significant decrease, especially for a company like Merck. You know, they're known for investing heavily in research and development.
Exactly. So it's a bit surprising to see such a big drop. It makes you wonder, what's going on there?
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions. Are they shifting their strategy somehow? Are they tightening their belts due to, those pricing pressures we talked about? Or is it something else entirely?
It's a mystery, isn't it?
It is.
But you know what? We've got plenty of time to try and solve it.
We do. Let's dive deeper into some of those strategic moves and see if we can figure out what Merck's up to.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Welcome back.
All right, so we're digging deeper into Merck's 2024 performance.
We've looked at the numbers, the products, the wins, the losses.
Right, and now we're trying to figure out what it all means. Like, what's the strategy behind all these moves?
Exactly. What's Merck's vision for the future, and how are they trying to get there?
Yeah, so last time we were talking about their R&D spending, how it dropped pretty significantly.
A 41% decrease, which is pretty surprising.
Yeah, and we were wondering if that might be connected to their increased focus on licensing deals, like that potential cancer treatment they licensed from Lenovo.
MK 2010, right?
Yeah, that one, and that deal involved a pretty big payment to Lenovo.
A $300 million milestone payment, to be exact.
$300 million, that's not chump change.
No, it's a serious investment, which suggests that Merck is really betting on this drug.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, we believe in this so much, we're willing to put a ton of money up front.
Exactly. And their 2025 forecast actually includes another $300 million payment to Lenovo for technology transfer.
So even more money going to Lenovo. That's interesting. It makes you think, what are they hoping to get out of this partnership? Are they trying to fill some gaps in their own research pipeline?
It's possible they might be looking to external sources for innovation, especially in areas where their own R&D hasn't been as fruitful.
Right. Like maybe they're realizing that they can't do everything themselves, that it makes more sense to partner with companies that are already doing cutting-edge work in certain areas.
Exactly. It's about leveraging expertise and resources to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's like, why reinvent the wheel when you can just, collaborate with someone who's already built a better wheel?
Exactly. And if you look at their strategic goals, they seem to be laser-focused on targeted therapies, particularly in oncology and vaccines.
And that makes sense, right? I mean, we've seen how successful Keytruda has been for them in the cancer space.
Yeah.
And vaccines have always been a core part of their business.
Right. So they're building on their strengths, and their pipeline reflects that focus.
Yeah, we talked about those promising new cancer treatments, the ones that are still in development.
And that exciting RSV vaccine for infants.
Right. And of course, Winrevair, which is showing a lot of potential in treating pulmonary arterial hypertension.
The fact that 2 phase 3 trials had to be stopped early because it was working so well, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't happen every day. It suggests that they're really onto something with this drug.
It does. It's definitely a sign that they're making progress in some key areas.
But it's not just about developing new drugs, right?
Yeah.
It's also about navigating the complexities of the healthcare market.
Absolutely. You've got regulations, pricing pressures, competition.
Right. And speaking of navigating complexities, we can't forget about that strategic pause on Gardasil shipments to China.
Ah, yes. The China conundrum.
It's still a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
It is. We're still trying to figure out exactly what's going on there.
It's a bold move, that's for sure, especially considering how big the Chinese market is.
Right. It's a significant portion of their revenue. So to just pause shipments like that, it's unusual.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what's the end game here? Are they just trying to buy some time to figure things out? Or is there a bigger strategy at play?
Well, they're obviously aware of the dip in demands that we talked about earlier, so maybe they're trying to address that.
Right, or maybe they're anticipating some changes in the Chinese market, like new regulations or something.
Or maybe they're playing hardball in negotiations with the Chinese government, trying to get better terms.
Could be. It's all speculation at this point, but it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It will, that's for sure. It's a reminder that the pharmaceutical industry is constantly evolving, and companies like Merck need to be adaptable and strategic to succeed.
Yeah, they can't just rest on their laurels. They've got to be thinking ahead, anticipating changes, and making moves to stay ahead of the game.
Exactly. And speaking of thinking ahead, let's shift our focus to their financial outlook for a moment.
Okay, yeah, we talked about their projected earnings per share, the non-GAAP EPS, which is supposed to be somewhere between $8.88 and $9.03.
Right, which seems like a big jump from last year's $7.65.
Yeah, but we also know that that jump is partly due to that one-time payment from Lenovo.
The $300 million for MK 2010.
Right, so it's not all organic growth.
No, but even if you factor out that one-time payment, their projected EPS still indicates solid growth.
Okay, so they're still expecting to make more money, even without that big boost from Lenovo.
Exactly, which suggests that they're confident in their ability to maintain profitability even with all the challenges they're facing.
Yeah, I mean, they're not exactly hurting for cash, but it's good to see that they're still focused on growing their business.
Absolutely, and it's not just about making money, it's about using those resources to make a difference in the world.
Right, and that's where their pipeline comes in, all those new treatments they're developing.
Exactly. Those treatments have the potential to transform lives, to help people who are suffering from serious illnesses.
Yeah, and it's not just about developing new drugs. It's also about making sure that those drugs are accessible to the people who need them.
Which brings us to the issue of drug pricing, a topic that's always top of mind in the healthcare industry.
It's a tough one, right? Because you've got the cost of research and development, the need to generate profits, and then the ethical responsibility to make sure that people can actually afford these life-saving medications.
It's a delicate balancing act, and there's no easy answer.
No, it's a complex issue with a lot of stakeholders, and everyone has their own perspective.
And those perspectives often clash, which makes it even more difficult to find solutions that work for everyone.
But it's a conversation that we need to keep having, right? Because the stakes are high.
They are. The cost of healthcare is a major concern for a lot of people, and drug pricing is a big part of that.
So, as we continue our deep dive into Merck, it's important to keep these broader societal issues in mind, not just the financial performance and the product pipeline.
Absolutely. We need to think about the impact of their decisions on patients, on the healthcare system as a whole, and on society at large.
All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have. We've talked about their strategic moves, their financial outlook, the challenges they're facing, and the broader context of the healthcare industry.
And in the final part, we'll zoom out even further, taking a look at the big trends that are shaping the future of pharmaceuticals.
We'll talk about things like personalized medicine, antimicrobial resistance, and the growing demand for transparency in the healthcare system.
So stay tuned for part 3, where we'll try to make sense of it all and figure out what the future holds for Merck and for the pharmaceutical industry as a whole. All right, so we're back for the final part of our Merck deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? Financials, products, strategies, the whole shebang.
Yeah, we've really gotten into the nitty-gritty.
Now, let's zoom out a bit, take a look at the bigger picture.
Right, like what's happening in the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, and what does it mean for companies like Merck?
Exactly. What are the big trends that are shaping the future of healthcare?
Well, one trend that we can't ignore is the rising cost of healthcare, especially here in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a huge issue, and it puts a lot of pressure on drug companies.
Right, because they need to make a profit, but they also need to make sure that their drugs are affordable.
It's a tough balancing act, for sure.
Yeah, and we saw a hint of that tension with Januvia and Janemet, those diabetes medications from Merck.
Right, they were facing pricing pressures and competition from generics.
Exactly, and it's a debate that's not going away anytime soon.
No, it's only going to get more intense.
So how do you think this pressure is going to affect Merck's strategy going forward?
Well, they might need to focus more on developing treatments for diseases where there aren't a lot of affordable options.
Okay, so kind of targeting those unmet needs.
Yeah, or they might need to come up with some new pricing models that make their drugs more accessible.
Right, like maybe some kind of subscription service or
Something like that, yeah. They need to be creative.
Definitely. And it's not just about pricing. There are other trends that are shaking things up in the industry.
Like personalized medicine, for example.
Ah, yes, personalized medicine. The idea of tailoring treatments to an individual's genetic makeup.
It's the future of healthcare, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, imagine getting a drug that's designed specifically for you.
Exactly. It could be incredibly effective and have fewer side effects.
So how is Merck positioned to capitalize on this trend?
Well, they're already investing in targeted therapies, like those cancer treatments we talked about.
Right, and they have a lot of expertise in genomics.
Yeah, so they're well positioned to be a leader in this space.
It's exciting, but it also raises some ethical questions, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Like, will everyone have access to these personalized treatments? What about the cost? And how do we ensure that this technology is used responsibly?
Yeah, it's something we need to think carefully about as this technology develops.
For sure, it's not just about the science, it's about the ethics, too.
Okay, so we've got rising healthcare costs, personalized medicine, anything else we need to be aware of?
Well, there's the looming threat of antimicrobial resistance.
Ah, yes, the superbugs.
Exactly, the bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics.
It's a pretty scary thought. Like, what happens when our drugs stop working?
It's a serious threat, and it's something that pharmaceutical companies need to be working on.
So what's Merck doing in this area?
Well, they're investing in research to develop new antibiotics.
Okay, good, because we definitely need those.
And they're also promoting responsible use of antibiotics, trying to prevent the spread of resistance.
Right, because the more we use antibiotics, the more likely it is that resistance will develop.
Exactly. It's a global problem that requires a global solution.
Well, it's a lot to think about, isn't it?
It is. The pharmaceutical industry is facing a lot of challenges, but there are also a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it's an industry that's constantly evolving, always pushing the boundaries of science and technology.
And Merck is right there in the thick of it, trying to make a difference in the world.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking Merck's 2024 performance.
I think so, too. We've looked at the numbers, the strategies, the challenges, and the opportunities.
And we've even zoomed out to consider the bigger picture, the trends that are shaping the future of healthcare.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners have learned a thing or two along the way.
I hope so, too. And I hope they'll continue to follow Merck's story as it unfolds.
Me too. It's a story that's far from over.
Well, that's it for our Merck Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time.